Beautiful community. This is a personal question and answer session. So prepare to be embarrassed because I am unembarrassable. I get a lot of questions around where my shirts come from. I just had a question on Patreon about whether I'm worried about my bone density, given that, or my muscle degeneration, whether I am because I am not moving much with illness, about whether I have legs and so on. And I'm collecting them. But what we're going to do today is hopefully brief personal Q&A. So it's just for those who already love and indulge me. And we're going to ask ChatGPT to give me a Proust-style quickfire Q&A. And a Proust-style questionnaire is something simple like, when are you saddest, when are you happiest, what do you hate, what do you love, what do you wish you were that you aren't, blah, blah, that kind of stuff. So let's do this. Proust-style questionnaire. Boom. So let's go, beautiful community. We've got 15 questions. And let's start with number one. What is your perfect idea of happiness? So I don't believe in happiness, but in joy when it comes to moments in life. Because for me, happiness is a life that has gone well, which requires both a lot of luck and self-realization. So, but moments are moments of joy for me, and for me moments of joy are being connected with people or things you love, a Beethoven score, or people who are in a family like love proximity to me. What do you fear most? Question 2. Premature death because of my illness, myalgic encephalomyelitis, that's been recently made worse by my post-COVID heart and microvascular damage, or a degeneration that completely stops me from working. Because at the moment I'm working an hour or two from bed. I'm sitting up for often half an hour a day, so it's shrunk a lot since the post-COVID experience. Before then, I could sit up much more freely. So that's I'm scared of premature death. I'm 43, so I don't want to die at 50. And I don't want to get worse. That's my number one fear. My number two fear is never being well enough to do high-level academic philosophy and release the 2 books I want to release. When do you cry? Question 3. In relation to illness, I would often like to cry, but can't. Cry just as a release, because you want to go scream in the forest, you want to cry. But I never cry like that, because when you're really ill and, the illness is putting you in a place where an elephant is standing on you and someone is sort of metaphorically choking you out, you don't cry in that situation, right? If that was happening to you, you would never cry in that situation because your physiological experience is too extreme to be relaxed enough to cry. In reality, almost all the times I cry in the last many, many years are when I encounter human beings making progress. So 9 times out of 10 when I cry, it's happy crying. And the easiest way to make me cry is to come to me and show that you or someone have made an enormous amount of progress in your art work. It could even be in some remarkable way in your personal life. So probably the biggest amount I cried like that was when I first heard the young pianist Kit Armstrong over 10 years ago, when he was barely a teenager, and he was a freak. And I think he played a Schumann piano concerto. This was at Oxford, and my health was a bit better than, so I could do short to medium walks. And I walked from the Sheldonian in Oxford to the station, which is a big walk by my health standards, but I could do it then. And I just had tears pouring down my face the whole walk, because of two things. Kit's extraordinary talent as a musician, but also how he was, with the help of people around him, realizing his talent at such a young age. I'm not trying to suggest this young man is a complete pianist. He's got some pretty big gaps he still needs to work on. The last time I cried a tiny bit was, I probably cry once or twice a month, a little bit. The last time I cried an infinitesimal amount was last night, when I read from a wine critic I really trust, even though I barely drink any wine, and I went through a 6-month period not touching a sip of wine just recently. But I think about wine without drinking it. When I read a wine critic I respect say amazing things about a man called Jean-Marc Vincent in Fontenay, who has made the greatest wine he's ever made in the 2022 vintage, a white wine from a vineyard that's not necessarily the best vineyard there, but it's famous, called Gravier. And I had tears in my eyes because this is a man who for 25 years was working artisanally, trying to skip, as it were, the parent generation that did a lot of the chemical stuff in winemaking that we all hate now. And he worked extraordinarily hard in the vineyard in the most artisanal way, with zero recognition, zero financial reward, with no ability to even slightly increase the price of his wines to actually invest in his winery and vineyard properly. So this was not just slave work for an amazing artisanal cause with no reward or recognition. It was also incredibly imaginative and systematic and clear-sighted and long-termist. And to see the fruits of that being realized, especially in a wine that costs, a tenth of what other wines as good as it can cost, is just moving to me. So I love to encounter humans improving, in a way that's sustainable, sort of long-term, and part of a sort of a life project that makes sense. What trait do you most admire in others? I've got to hurry up. Generosity. 5. What trait do you most dislike in yourself? I am very calm by personality. So if I'm in a plane crash that's falling out of the sky, you want to be sitting next to me, actually, to ground your last few moments on Earth. But I have a pretty broken nervous system as a result of my illness. So, and that's far from being one of the main symptoms, but it means that I'm often quite zzz, and it's hard for me to relax completely into what I'm doing. That's not the main reason it's hard to relax. It's mostly because I'm in a lot of pain. But my nervous system is a bit out of sync with my personality because of the inflammation in my body. And so that's one trait that I'd like to change about myself. I'm doing everything I can, right? I'm a professional meditator. But what moment in your life do you wish you could relive? Well, obviously, I would love not to have got sick in 2003 by going on holiday and not catching the 2 infection and virus things that I caught at the time that triggered my genetic predisposition to get sick. Apart from that, it's hard because you're just not ready for some things in life, and then you're ready for them, and you can't really say, I wish I were ready earlier. I don't quite know what that means. It would be, like you not quite being you, not you going through the journey of evolution. I think that when I was very, very young, sort of really between 22 and 29, I kept a woman in a relationship for which I wasn't emotionally ready. And if I could go back, I would have let her go early. It's fine. She is my closest friend and she's married with children. But I think that's an interesting phenomena. Highly sophisticated men in our culture clinging on to relationships for which they're not emotionally ready yet. And so I did that. And my lack of readiness was just that I wasn't grounded enough. Something I'm grateful to be today. I was too floaty. I was almost kind of waiting for life to start a bit rather than fully living it. Of course, I had most of that period severe limitations with my really bad illness, so I was under a lot of pressure, but still I wasn't grounded enough and so on. What's your greatest regret? I think I've just answered that. So let me rephrase the previous question then, which is, what moment do you want to relive? Let me answer that positively, not in the regret sense. So I think that the most positive moment in recent history was the period from the late 90s till maybe 2010 or so, before our social and political world began to constrict. There was a kind of historical bubble we were in that just felt disproportionately good. It was never going to last, but at the time it felt really, really good. I do think that that period, late 90s till 2010, is one of the most remarkable human periods anywhere in any civilization in the world, in human history. And in Britain, plus, of course, we were much more, not just multicultural, but European than we are today. And that also was something I immensely enjoyed as somebody, the majority of whose friends are and people they love are international. What's your most treasured possession? Wow. Maybe some prints by absurdist or surreal artists like George Nama or Max Neumann. That's it. I loved my pig also as a possession. My pig Hillary, who I owned in Tonga. What do you consider your greatest achievement? Oh, it's easy. It's that through a lot of illness and physical suffering that I've managed to grow. And above all, that I've managed to grow as a philosopher while being a philosopher who is virtually unable to do any philosophy because they're ill, and still being able to grow every week as a philosopher, almost doing no philosophy, but and doing it under a lot of physical pressure. Incredibly proud of that. What is your greatest love of your life? Humans, who are the love of my life. And so that would be one love in personal life, one side of it. The other side would be, I think, the arts. So it would be something like, for instance, the piano playing of Edwin Fischer in the mid-1930s. What word or phrase do you overuse? Come on, beautiful community. Beautiful. I am unashamed to fly that flag for beauty with an aesthetic dimension, which we're often shy about in our culture, in our somewhat instrumental and scientistic culture. What talent do you wish you had? I just wish I was well enough to realize my talents more that I already have. Trivially, there's a couple of things I love doing, but I don't love doing them as one of the top things in life. So definitely, even if I were well tomorrow with a wave of a wand, I still wouldn't spend enormous time developing that skill, but I'd love to dance. And the second that I'm a bit more connected to in practice is cooking. I love cooking. I almost never do it. I can't stand up at the moment to cook without 2 or 3 days of agony after it. But I love cooking. Just recently, and something simple and beautifully done. I was fantasizing about cooking a beautiful Georgian satsivi, but I'm not sure I can do that at the moment. I can't. I have cooked a tiny bit. No, I haven't. The next time I cook in a few months, fingers crossed, I'll be sitting down when I do it, and it'll be rare, and I'll suffer a lot physically for it. Where do you feel most at home? Physically, I feel most at home in Australia. Culturally, I feel most at home in Central Europe. So that might include Germany, could conceivably include, could be Austria, could be Czech. What is your most marked characteristic? Well, it's obviously my traits as a philosopher, which are to do with a kind of openness combined with relentless engagement. But aside from philosophy, I suppose it's that all humans who know me, think I engage with how they feel personally more than any other human being they've met. So, you've gone to buy a packet of chips and you'd like me to engage with you. I will. How did that feel? Okay. So what was it? What were you feeling when you did that? Does eating the first chip remind you of something from childhood? What's going on in your head? What are you feeling now? What's it like? And what is that like? And that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. And obviously, if you transfer that to a serious conversation, it's not about a packet of chips. It's an engagement that goes toward people being seen. And so that's my best positive characteristic. What's your motto? Be open to the possibility of being surprised. Because life can give you things you didn't ask for that are tragic, but life can also give you amazing things that it turns out you love, but you didn't expect and didn't know you would love, or didn't think you could love. And lots of love.